Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take complex ideas, unpack them, and really find the core insights for you. Today, we're embarking on a truly fascinating exploration, diving deep into the philosophical bedrock of a unified theoretical proposal for social work. It's called the Cognosystemic theory of human psychosocial relational construction, or TCCR for short. Our source material for this is the insightful work by Dylan Simonovich, the book Cognosystemic Theory of Human Psychosocial Relational Construction, TCCR. And our mission today is to really understand the fundamental philosophical underpinnings. We're talking phenomenology, hermeneutics, and social constructionism. These aren't just structuring the TCCR, they're actually redefining how we understand psychosocial reality and, crucially, professional intervention in social work. You see, social work has historically kind of grappled with a fragmentation of its theoretical base, often borrowing ideas without maybe a fully unique, cohesive framework. The TCCR seems to offer a powerful response here.
It really does. And what's so compelling, I think, is how these seemingly quite abstract philosophical schools actually converge. They come together to offer a coherent and, importantly, a practical framework for engaging with the incredible intricacy of human experience and relationships. We'll explore how they fundamentally move social work beyond some of the traditional, maybe more rigid models towards something more critical, more fluid, and deeply relational in its epistemology.
That's a powerful framing. Let's start then. Let's unpack phenomenology first. It offers such a unique lens for understanding how we perceive reality, especially the kind of reality social workers engage with daily.
Indeed. And the TCCR draws very significantly from Edmund Husserl's transcendental phenomenology. His core contribution, and it's laid out clearly in the sources, is this really quite radical idea of reality, not as some fixed external thing out there, but as a phenomenon that appears to consciousness. Husserl famously called for a return to the things themselves. He urged us to focus on describing lived experience, in its purest form, exactly as it presents itself, without imposing our prior theoretical frameworks or any preconceived notions. Think about it like this. Understanding a feeling, say sadness, it isn't about reducing it to like a chemical imbalance or a label from the DSM. Instead, it's about meticulously exploring how an individual subjectively experiences that sadness. What are its textures, its nuances? How does it show up in their consciousness? This was his critique of what he termed psychologism, which he felt often overlooked the rich transcendental structures of conscious experience by just reducing them to empirical facts.
Okay, so it's really about that deep subjective felt experience, not just objective categories. That is quite a shift, isn't it?
Precisely. And then Alfred Schütz builds on this with his social phenomenology. He highlights that reality isn't just an individual's private experience. It's profoundly constituted through intersubjectivity, which means it's formed within a world of shared meanings. Schütz, as our sources explain, saw social reality not as static, but as a dynamic process. It's continuously formed, reformed through our everyday interactions. We're constantly interpreting and negotiating meanings within our relationships. This involves shared knowledge, common sense, interpretive schemes, all things we learn through socialization and culture. They facilitate mutual understanding. So my experience of something is shaped by yours and by our shared cultural background.
Right, that brings in the crucial social dimension. So how does the TCCR then integrate this particular philosophical piece into its core structure?
Well, for the TCCR, phenomenology, both Husserl's focus on the individual and Schütz's on the shared meaning, provides this absolutely vital idea that lived experience and subjective meaning are the indispensable starting point for understanding social reality. Full stop. It roots the theory right in the immediate, personal, and also the shared perceptions of individuals. For a social worker, this means truly listening to a client's story. Not just for the facts, but for the deeply personal meaning they attach to those facts. It's about accepting their reality as valid from their perspective. That's fundamental for building trust, for genuine understanding, and for avoiding, imposing an external definition of what their problem is.
Okay, so if phenomenology grounds us in that lived experience, then hermeneutics seems to provide the tools for how we understand that experience, especially since so much reality is communicated through stories, through language. And this is where it gets, I think, really profound, particularly with Hans-Georg Gadamer.
Gadamer's thought is absolutely pivotal here, yes. The core idea, which really underpins the TCCR, is that all understanding is interpretation. Our sources highlight his hermeneutic methodology, and it extends far beyond just, interpreting old texts. It encompasses all human experience. Understanding in this view isn't like a linear decoding process like cracking a code. It's much more like an ongoing dynamic dialogue between the interpreter and whatever is being interpreted.
A dialogue. What exactly does that imply for how we understand the world, or maybe more importantly, another person?
It leads to two really key concepts, the hermeneutic circle and historically affected consciousness. The hermeneutic circle. It isn't a vicious circle. It's more like a dynamic spiral of refining your understanding. It means you understand the parts of someone's story by relating them to your understanding of the whole story, and then you refine your grasp of the whole by looking more closely at the parts. It's cyclical, iterative, and historically affected consciousness is just as vital. It means that every act of interpretation, every understanding you form, is inevitably profoundly influenced by your own history, your culture, your prior experiences. You're never a neutral observer, a blank slate. Your perceptions, even your prejudices, and Gadamer uses that term in a non-pejorative way, are shaped by your historical context. He talks about the fusion of horizons, the coming together of the interpreter's present understanding and the horizon of the text, or the person leading to a richer, emergent understanding.
Wow. So my own background, my life story, my cultural lens, all of that profoundly shapes what I understand and how I understand it. That has huge implications for anyone in a helping profession.
Absolutely enormous implications.
Yeah.
And for the TCCR, hermeneutics is crucial precisely because it allows us to understand narrative systems as historical constructions. They're full of complex meaning, and they must always be interpreted within their specific context. It gives us the sophisticated tools to engage with the stories people tell about their lives, their problems, their world, recognizing how deeply embedded these stories are in history and culture. Meaning isn't fixed, it's dynamic, it's recursive, it's constantly reevaluated through new interpretations, through dialogue. And this is so crucial for a social worker trying to grasp a client's problem, not as some objective pathology, but as a narrated experience, steeped in personal and collective history.
This flows really nicely into social constructionism then, because if our understanding is shaped by context, social constructionism seems to say that context, that reality itself, is something we actively build together. What are the key ideas here?
Yes, exactly. The sources really emphasize the foundational work of Berger and Luckman, and also Kenneth Gergen. Social constructionism basically posits that social reality isn't a fixed, objective, out there thing. Rather, it's an intersubjective construction. It's continuously built, rebuilt, sustained through our narratives, our symbols, our shared meanings. It's the idea that our beliefs, our knowledge, even what we take for granted as facts, aren't just discoveries about the external world. They're collective creations we constantly reinforce through interaction.
That's quite a thought. Are you suggesting our conversations literally create reality? That sounds almost too abstract for day-to-day practice.
In a very profound sense, yes, especially social reality. Berger and Luckman argue that almost all knowledge, even concepts we think are fundamental like time, identity, social roles, these are products of social interaction and socialization. They talk about this continuous process. We internalize existing social realities, learn the rules, the meanings of our society, and we externalize new ones through our actions, our conversations. And they also introduce institutionalization. That's where recurring social norm practices become stable, they seem objective, they get embedded as just the way things are. We often forget they were constructed in the first place. Think about something like money. It's just paper or data bits, right? But its value is this incredibly powerful social construction that dictates so much of our lives.
And how does Vygotsky fit into this? His work on development seems relevant here.
Very relevant. Vygotsky's constructivism strongly informs this perspective. He emphasized the huge role of social interaction and culture in how individual thought and knowledge develop. Language, for instance, isn't just for communicating ideas that already exist. It's a fundamental mechanism for creating social reality. Words, shared signs, they allow us to share experiences, to reach agreements about what things mean. We literally construct shared realities through language. Just naming a social issue gives it a certain kind of reality. So the TCCR explicitly adopts this social constructionist view. It asserts that human psychosocial reality is either purely objective nor purely individual. Instead, it's fundamentally narrated, negotiated, and often contested through language and relationship. What this means is our understanding of ourselves, our problems, our world, it's fluid, it's dynamic. It's constantly being shaped by how we talk about it, how others respond, how we interact. And this stands in pretty sharp contrast to, say, positivist or realist views, which tend to assume reality exists independently of our perception or interpretation.
Okay, so let's pull this together. We have phenomenology focusing on subjective lived experience. Hermeneutics gives us the method for interpreting that experience and its meaning. And social constructionism provides the framework for how these meanings are collectively built and negotiated in relationship. How does the TCCR actually weave these distinct philosophies into one unified fabric? What does it really mean when you put them all together like this?
Right, and this is where the TCCR shows its real synthetic power.
Yeah.
It does not just sort of line these up as separate schools of thought. Instead, it integrates them seamlessly, creates a cohesive whole, a much richer, multi-layered lens for looking at psychosocial reality.
Can you give an example, maybe? How would this play out?
Sure. Let's imagine a client comes to a social worker really struggling with a feeling of profound social isolation. Okay, so phenomenology contributes first by demanding the worker focuses intensely on the client's subjective lived experience of that isolation. How does it feel to them? What are its specific qualities? Is it like a quiet solitude or a gnawing emptiness, maybe a frantic loneliness? The focus is on how reality appears to this person right here, right now.
Okay, starting with their feeling.
Exactly. Then hermeneutics steps in. It provides the methodology for comprehending and interpreting the meaning within those experiences, and crucially, within the narratives the client shares. The client tells their story about their past, their relationships, how they came to feel this way. Hermeneutics reminds the worker that this story isn't just a factual report. It's an interpretation shaped by the client's own history, their understanding. And the social worker, remember, also brings their own historically affected consciousness. So understanding becomes this ongoing dialogue, this fusion of horizons between them, where the meaning of isolation for this specific client emerges through their shared interpretation of the story.
I see. So it's co-created understanding.
Precisely. And finally, social constructionism offers that vital relational and social perspective. It helps us see how the client's sense of isolation isn't just an individual feeling locked inside them. It's something that has been socially constructed through interactions. Maybe through societal expectations, maybe through labels or narratives imposed by their community or culture. Perhaps the client has internalized societal stories about success or belonging that lead them to interpret their situation as isolation. Or maybe their social network has, perhaps inadvertently, created conditions that reinforce those feelings. So constructionism shows how these individual experiences and interpretations become shared, negotiated, and even contested through interaction and language.
So it's definitely not just a collection of separate ideas, but a really dynamic, interconnected system. Each perspective informs and enriches the others.
Exactly right. This integration is what constitutes the Cognosystemic perspective of reality as a dynamic web of meanings narrated within intersubjective systems. It's a powerful recognition that individual experience is always situated within a reality that's collectively constructed, constantly interpreted, and always evolving through interaction, language, shared stories. The TCCR offers this really comprehensive, dynamic view of how we humans construct our reality through relationships, subjective experiences, and our unfolding life narratives. It integrates subjective perception with social construction and, importantly, critical questioning. It's about seeing the whole person within their whole context.
This philosophical grounding sounds incredibly profound and actually very practical too. But let's bring it home for our listener. They might be a social worker or maybe just deeply interested in social intervention. What are the real concrete implications for practice? Why should they truly care about these philosophical concepts?
Oh, the implications are absolutely transformative for social work practice. This foundation enables the construction of a theoretical model centered squarely on the critical interpretation of the reality narrated by subjects. That's a fundamental shift. It means moving beyond just, observable facts or diagnostic checklists. It means diving deep to understand the profound, subjective meanings clients attribute to their situations, focusing on the unique complexity, the human experiences that define their lives.
Can you illustrate that maybe with that unemployment example you touched on?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
So imagine a social worker meets a family struggling with chronic unemployment. A traditional, maybe more positivist approach might focus mainly on external factors, job market stats, skills deficits, referrals to training, treating unemployment as an objective problem to be fixed with technical fixes.
Right, the standard approach, perhaps.
But with the TCCR's foundation, the worker first uses phenomenology to understand how each family member experiences this unemployment. What does it actually mean to the parent, to the child? Is it shame, anger, despair, maybe even a kind of quiet resignation? Then hermeneutics guides the worker to interpret the family's narratives around unemployment. What stories do they tell themselves and each other about their situation? Are there perhaps intergenerational stories of hardship, or maybe hidden stories of resilience and hope? And finally, social constructionism helps reveal how societal narratives about unemployment pervasive labels like lazy or undeserving might be actively shaping their reality and their self-perception, maybe impacting their sense of agency, their belief that things can change.
That paints a much richer picture.
Doesn't it? And this integrated approach, grounded in these philosophies via the TCCR, allows for interventions that are far more contextually appropriate, ethical, and ultimately more emancipatory. Instead of applying a one-size-fits-all technical solution, social work can genuinely engage with the unique, constructed realities of individuals and families. It helps promote true agency, true liberation, by adapting and responding to the particularity of each case. It helps people, helps families, perhaps re-narrate their experiences and collaboratively construct new possibilities for their lives.
So it's a really significant departure from some older, maybe more clinical or detached models of social work.
Indeed it is. It explicitly aims to transcend the positives model that has, for a long time, shaped social work through a kind of technical logic. That older logic often treated social problems almost like objective things to be diagnosed and fixed with preset theories, a bit like a mechanic fixing an engine. And as we mentioned earlier, social work has historically relied quite heavily on theories borrowed from other disciplines, which sometimes led to a kind of conceptual fragmentation, maybe even a perceived lack of its own distinct scientific or theoretical base. This new foundation, the TCCR, offers that much-needed coherence. It replaces that positivist approach with an epistemology deeply grounded in relationality and meaning. It really positions social work powerfully as a key actor in critically understanding and helping to reconfigure psychosocial dynamics in our contemporary society. It empowers the field to move beyond just describing problems to actively promoting genuine human transformation.
As we wrap up this deep dive, it's incredibly clear that the Cognosystemic theory of human psychosocial relational construction, the TCCR, is, well, it's far more than just a simple collection of existing ideas. It really does feel like a comprehensive paradigm shift for the field.
That's exactly right. The TCCR emerges as a truly powerful philosophical synthesis. It's uniquely applied to understanding psychosocial reality, specifically from the perspective of, and for the benefit of, social work. It's not just about understanding, though. It's really a profound call to action to move beyond merely describing phenomena toward actively promoting transformation and liberation in people's lives and communities.
It certainly invites us, anyone intervening in social spaces, to think and engage in a much more conscious, critical, and ultimately transformative way.
Absolutely. And perhaps for you, the listener, as someone learning about this or potentially intervening in these complex social landscapes yourself, this perspective raises a really important question to ponder. How might a deeper appreciation of this narrated, negotiated, and often contested nature of reality empower you to foster more authentic, more lasting change in the intricate human systems you encounter every day?
That's a truly thought-provoking question to carry forward. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the rich philosophical foundations of the TCCR. We really hope this exploration has given you some new insights and perhaps a fresh perspective on that intricate dance between human experience, meaning, and intervention.